You're not talking?
Hello, can you all hear me?
Yep.
Okay, my internet had cut out at home for like 2 seconds. I was like, not now. This is not the time. Okay.
We are actually live, so let's go ahead and mute ourselves for just a few more minutes.
Thank you.
Are we on the Carbondale Library Facebook page?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Matthew Wilson, and I'm a proud member of the So Ill Unity Coalition. Carbondale United presents Visualizing a Better Community, a conversation with local officials. This is an opportunity for you to get to know and reflect with Joe Cervantes, Jackson County, Illinois State's Attorney, and Officer Stan Reno, Carbonell, Illinois Interim Chief of Police. We want to thank you for joining us this evening and hope you enjoy the program. Next slide. Schedule and info. So the panelists will each talk about their plans for the community. A question and answer will take place in the last half of the program. An unbiased event moderator will pose questions to the panelists through written questions submitted by the registrants. If time permits, questions will be answered that are submitted during the forum through question and answer. The program today is 1 hour long. If your question does not get answered due to time constraints, the state's attorney and interim chief of police have expressed interest in holding additional sessions on specific topics in the future. Carbondale United mission statement. The mission of Carbondale United is to provide an avenue of healing and community safety through the following: awareness, education, and activism. Our goals are to eliminate gun violence and racism from our neighborhoods and to provide events that are inclusive and diverse. Be sure to check out Carbondale United's Facebook page for upcoming events. So again, that's www.facebook.com/createabettercommunity15. The Instagram page is @Carbondale_United15 and email is carbondaleunited15@gmail.com. Carbondale United presents Black Hair Story, which is a virtual event for Black History Month. Before there was GPS, there were braiding maps. This event is Thursday, February 18th, 2021 from 6 to 9, and we hope to see you there. An event coming up on February 25th is Becoming a Phenomenal Woman, hosted by the one and truly Dr. Linda Flowers. Virtual event starts at 6 p.m. Looking forward to seeing you there. And just to keep you updated on our Black History Month calendar, here are our events. So Saturday, February 6th at 1 p.m., The Roots of Black Music in America. Tuesday, February 9th, Blackout Tuesday Business Fair. Thursday, February 18th, Hair Story that we just talked about before. Monday, February 22nd, Building Generational Wealth. Thursday, February 25th, again, Becoming a Phenomenal Woman. And Friday, February 26th, The Undiscussable. Time is to be determined. See you this Black History Month. Moving on to today's guest speakers. Meet Joe Cervantes. Joe Cervantes is the recently elected state's attorney of Jackson County. After attending Southern Illinois University School of Law, Joe had the privilege of beginning his career as an assistant state's attorney with the Williamson County State's Attorney Office, where he gained valuable courtroom experience prosecuting offenses ranging from traffic violations to Class X felonies. He continued his work as a prosecutor with the Saline County State's Attorney Office as an assistant state's attorney, handling an extremely busy juvenile docket. After working in the Saline County, Joe went into private practice where he handled a variety of cases throughout the 1st and 2nd Judicial Circuit of Illinois, the Illinois 5th District Appellate Court, and the United States Federal Court, Southern District. Joe has resided in Southern Illinois since 1996. After high school, Joseph enlisted in the United States Marine Corps and served as a Marine infantry leader, deploying in 2003, 2004, 2007, and 2008 to Iraq. He then worked as a NATO weapons advisor and trainer, traveling and working throughout Afghanistan. Joe Cervantes. Next, we have Officer Stan Reno. Carbonell Interim Police Chief Stan Reno was born and raised right here in Carbondale. He graduated from Carbondale Community High School and attended SIU Carbondale, where he received his degree in political science and administration of justice. Interim Chief Reno joined the Carbondale Police Department in 1997 as a police officer, worked in patrol, and became a field training officer, allowing him the opportunity to train numerous new police officers. In 2002, he was assigned to a narcotics task force and commissioned as task force officer with the DEA. He was promoted to sergeant in 2006 and supervised the investigations division. In 2007, he started a uniformed street crimes unit that responded to violent crime and violent offenders. He was promoted to lieutenant in 2010 and deputy chief of police in 2013, until he was named interim chief of police in 2020. Interim Chief Reno attended the 247th session of the FBI National Academy in 2011 and the FBI Law Enforcement Executive Development Training in 2015. He received recognition as Employee of the Year for the city and numerous awards and commendations during his career. Again, Officer, Interim Chief Police, Stan Reno.
Okay, I think we're going to have Joe Cervantes talk a little bit about his plans for the community.
Thank you. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Joe Cervantes. I am the Jackson County State's Attorney. I was elected here in Jackson County in November of last year. I took office on December 1st, 2020. And so I've just recently had the honor and privilege of taking office. I ran on a reform platform, and that's no secret. I reached out to members of the community and not just certain neighborhoods, but every neighborhood, because I believe that our criminal justice system is supposed to work for everyone, not just for some. So it's not just about prosecuting to me. It's about making sure that we're listening to victims, we're listening to the people in the community, and that we're talking about healing and crime prevention, and not just prosecution. And in order to do that, our office has had to look at criminal justice from a wider perspective, not just from here in the office, but from the outside looking in. And I think that what I wanted to do and what I'm starting to do here in the Jackson County State's Attorney's Office is provide resources and programs and options for individuals who find themselves in the criminal justice system. And what I mean by options is that not every case is just about whether you get probation or prison, or whether you get a fine or supervision, or a felony or a misdemeanor. But sometimes it's about bringing people back to useful citizenship after they've maybe had a tough road or have made a mistake. And so one solution is not going to be the solution for everyone. We need a variety of solutions, a variety of tools, if you will, to be able to take people and get them right again. And so we've really, in the first couple months, looked at how we can do that. The first thing that I wanted to do is make sure that our office was data driven. And that means that, we see these problems that divide us nationally, and we often think that those are the same problems that are here in Jackson County, and they very well could be. But a lot of times that's not the case. So we want to make sure that we know what's going on in Jackson County, and we hadn't had a good way to collect data in our office. And so the first thing we did, in fact, on the day that I was sworn in, I had a Zoom meeting with members of SIU, the chancellor, and a number of other deans, and we formed a partnership where we would have undergraduate, graduate, as well as law students come in and start working on that problem of collecting data, so I know exactly what's happening here, and I can provide that information to the community. It's just common sense to know that you can't fix anything if you don't know how to measure it, if you haven't measured it first. And so we're happy for the first time to have our office in the SIU catalog, so that graduate students and undergraduate students can get credit to come in here and help me look through my files and find out what's been going on, and find a good way to collect our data going forward. That's key and fundamental to putting any programs out. The next thing is I'm excited to say that in March we'll be standing up a Citizens Advisory Board, and we've had a committee that has been working on how to set that up, and we're excited about that, because one of the things that I've noticed going door to door during the campaign was that most of the leaders in our community are not necessarily elected leaders. Most of the leaders are people that are parts of community organizations, or maybe just members of community organizations that take part in a number of different events on a regular basis, and they have a lot to offer. They have a lot to bring to the table. I wanted to make sure that once I took office, I didn't lose contact with the community, that I continued working with the community, and the best way that I could do that is to form this advisory board. I'm excited that it's going to be a diverse Citizens Advisory Board that I'll look to for advice, and it'll be a channel for me to communicate with the community and to talk about programs that we can initiate and that I can help them with. So we're excited to announce that as well. And then there's a number of other programs that we're pushing, like an alternative prosecution program to make sure that first-time offenders don't have criminal misdemeanors or felonies on their record if it's been a mistake and it's something that they can remedy. We have a warrant amnesty program that's coming out to help young men and women get right and be legal again on the road. And all of these are, and I could go on. I'm excited that we're working on these programs, but the overall idea is that we have to be multifaceted with the state's attorney's office. It just comes with the office of not just prosecuting, but developing programs to make sure that we don't have to prosecute as much. And I'm adamant about doing that. Lastly, I just want to say that, you know, I've often said that despite my reform platform and being what I consider a progressive prosecutor, is that sometimes we have to prosecute. We do that often, and sometimes we have to take care of violent crimes and make sure that people who commit violent offenses are not in a position to make our neighborhoods less safe than they should be. In other words, sometimes people are going to go to jail, and some are going to have to go and serve terms in the Illinois Department of Corrections. That's just part of my job, and it's the toughest part of my job. But when we do that, when we have to make those tough decisions, we have to have those discussions and those conversations and that dialogue with the community. And I'm okay with having those about why I made those decisions, about why we had to put somebody in the Illinois Department of Corrections, and how I believe that's making the community safer and better. And so again, I'm anxious to do this job. I'm excited to be doing it now. We have a lot of great things happening, and I feel a great energy from the community and from our office. But again, when we have these certain cases and these certain crimes, we're going to take care of them to make the neighborhood safe. But I'm okay with having that dialogue. It's been a pleasure to be the state's attorney for Jackson County just over the last so many days. I'm excited to do the job, and I look forward to working with the community and with the law enforcement officials and leaders like Chief Reno, who I've had the opportunities to start working with. And thank you very much for having this today and having me on here.
Thank you so much, Joe. Now we will hear from Stan Reno about his plans for the community.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for having me, and thank you for participating, and congratulations to Mr. Cervantes. I'm excited about working with him and the partnerships that we're forming and on the different things that we're trying to do to help the Carbondale community and the Jackson County as a whole. And you'll see a lot more of he and I collaborating on things as we move forward, and we certainly support all of his efforts and the things that he's doing through his office. Some of the things specifically that I've been working on here at the Carbondale Police Department and in the last few months, since late 2020, when I had the opportunity to step into the interim chief role. We had a number of things that we were already working on. So it's some of the things we're continuing to build on. But one thing that started along with our human resources department was a 5-on-5 community conversation. And it was really designed as an opportunity for our officers to meet with selected members of the community and have open dialogue about how we can improve things, get the perspectives from everyone involved. And it's an opportunity for our officers all through the ranks and through all divisions of the department to meet with community members and really, again, just have an open conversation. It's not something that I personally participate in because I want all of our staff to feel comfortable having these conversations, open conversations about, how perceptions and how things are perceived in the community with the police department and how officers perceive things in the community as well. So it's been very successful. We've had our first round of the 5-on-5 conversations. It went so well, in fact, that they had a second opportunity to talk again because they ran out of time. And then they also decided with that particular group that they're going to continue on a monthly basis of having those conversations and continuing to talk about what's happening in Carbondale. So very excited about that. We've already planned the second session with the next set of police officers and the next set of community members. So the bar has been set high by the first group, but we're optimistic that we're going to continue to build relationships and reach out and really help each other understand, how we can best function in the community and be responsive to the needs of our citizens. Another program that we're working on that's coming out very soon is what we're we're calling our Community Service Officer Apprenticeship Program. And what it is, a non-sworn position. It's a civilian position that will work within the police department. We already have community service officers now, again, that are civilian employees that assist the department with different functions and things around the department, really are there to support the officers in the department with anything that we need. They don't have the ability to make arrests. They're not police officers. But this particular program is being designed as part of our recruitment program, part of our efforts to diversify the police department. And we're partnering with Mantricon, an employment agency here in the region. And the design of the program is to bring in young adults and give them the opportunity to have a paid job in which we train them to become police officers, and specifically Carbondale police officers. It also has opportunities for them to have their education paid for while they're working here at the police department. And we're going to put them through a very specific training program that teaches them our policies, our procedures, how we do things, how police officers do their profession. And the goal is to prepare them to take our police test and become entry-level police officers. And one of the advantages of this program is that because they have already had all the training through the department, that they wouldn't have to take our written test. They would just have to pass the physical fitness portions of it that's required by the state. And then we would hopefully have the opportunity to hire them in as a new police officer. So we're very excited about that. You'll be seeing more information coming out that about it in the very near future. Another one of my goals has been, and we've already worked on it and implemented some of it, is increasing our transparency in the police department. And what we've already done is we've posted a couple of our policies on our Carbondale Police Department website, which is explorecarbondale.com. If you go to that website, you will find our use of force policy. You'll find our mobile video recording policy. Two of the policies we get some of the most questions about. So we wanted that to be open and available for everyone to see at any time. We also now have a daily summary report that includes all the details of arrests on a daily basis. So you can go to the website and see what arrests have been made by our department and the details that we're allowed to provide about those particular arrests. And we've also included a report that shows our annual calls for service, as well as a summary of the complaints and commendations that have come into the police department regarding our officers. So you'll go there and you'll be able to see what complaints came in against officers, a summary of that complaint, the disposition of that complaint, and then the totals for the last 2 years also of the different complaints that we investigated involving our police officers. So you'll have, again, it's an effort to really, we want to be transparent. We want everyone to know what's going on at the police department and what's happening. So you can find those things there, and our plans are to enhance that even further and provide more information as we move forward. We also have 2 community resource officers that we brought in, and their title is officer, but they're not sworn. They're civilian individuals that have come in, and it's designed for them to be the points of contact for the community within our department. They're going to be available to respond to the needs of the community. Different programs that we'll be offering, such as the Citizens Police Academy, which we've offered for a number of years, unfortunately is currently suspended due to the pandemic, but we are looking forward to starting that again and getting it going as soon as we're able to do so. So it's Gerald Edwards and Randy Mathis are 2 community resource officers, and just want everyone to know that they're available to you if you need anything or you have any questions. They can be reached by calling the police department. Another one of our goals that we're working towards and currently in conversations about is in the process of creating 2 positions to better relate to the behavioral health needs of our community in Carbondale. We're partnering with SIH to create a police mental health corroboration specialist. And essentially what that is somebody that's skilled and educated in behavioral health that will be responding out with officers to calls involving people that are having mental health episodes or people in crisis or behavioral health issues. So we're excited about that. It gives our officers more resources, more opportunities to provide the people in need with the services and resources that they need to help them along their recovery path. So we look forward to getting that started in the near future. And the other position will be a youth advocate position in which they will do many of the same things as I just described. However, they will be specific to youth, juveniles, and recognizing juveniles in crisis, whether it's they're involved in criminal activity or whether they've been neglected or abused as a result of a family situation. But having somebody here in the police department that is that direct advocate to that child and to their family to provide them services and resources to help them. And a big part of what we want to do, and Mr. Cervantes and I have talked a lot about this, to respond to some of the violence that we've seen in our community, is to have a conflict resolution piece in that, in which we were able to provide some information and education about how to better resolve conflict without resorting to violence. We're also working at the request of the new Irma Hayes Community Center Board to create a satellite office within the Irma Hayes Community Center. And we're excited to do that. There's a lot of work that's being done there. If you haven't had an opportunity to go by there, I encourage you to stop by and see all the good work that's being done to get that building rehabilitated and back up and running, so that it is the important place that it is for that neighborhood. And they've made a lot of progress, and I anticipate that it'll be open in the near future, and we are going to be a part of that. So the goal for us there is to meet the requests of the people in the neighborhood and the board at the building, so that we are more accessible and visible to the residents in that neighborhood, and so that we can offer more services. And we want to make sure that our officers are accessible to everyone. So we're excited about this opportunity and hope that within the next few months that we'll be have our office open there. Another big goal and project that we are working on is to have our department reaccredited. And the Carbondale Police Department was accredited for many years, and we've continued up on our policies and done accreditation in different ways. But we are going back to where an outside third party will come in and review our policies to make sure that we're in compliance with all state and federal laws and rules and regulations, and really gives us an opportunity to review our policies on a regular basis to make sure that we are meeting all the standards that we should be, and that we're exercising the best practices for law enforcement. It's a big endeavor. It's a challenge. There's a lot. We have over 100 policies, and we'll be going through every one of those, updating them, creating new ones, eliminating some, combining others, but all with the oversight of a third party. It's the Illinois Law Enforcement Accreditation Program. So we're excited to be doing that. Like I said, it's a big project, but it's what we need, and it emphasizes such things as using force, making it proportional to the threat that the officers face, and emphasizing de-escalation. I mean, those are one of the things we're going to be working on our use of force policy to incorporate those things. So we're really taking a total reworking of all our policies to make sure, once again, that we're exercising the best practices. We're going to be continuing to work with our high school and the state's attorney's office through a youth safety panel program that we've had for a number of years, in which we meet and discuss issues in the community with our youth, and identifying any youth that are in particular need of services or interventions. So we're excited to work with Mr. Cervantes on that moving forward, and to help curb some of the violence that we are seeing involving our youth in the community. We're working, we just recently had diversity training for our officers. That's something that we do on an annual basis. We work with our human resources department to plan that training and to make sure that our officers are getting as much diversity and diversity training for everyone within the police department, not just the officers. So that's a focus of mine and a priority of mine, and we will continue to do that. In regards to recruiting and retention for our police department, we're working very closely and have formed a great relationship with our human resources department to form a team approach for recruiting and retaining our officers, as well as officer wellness. So it's really, it's a team approach. It takes a lot. Our goal is to educate, everyone about the Carbondale Police Department and how we operate, to encourage qualified applicants and to promote diversity within our police department. So we're all working together to do that. And I'll take this time to mention that we are having a police test on March 22nd, and we encourage anyone interested in coming and working with us to please test at that time. Overall, my goal is really to continue to work to change the culture of the Carbondale Police Department so that we understand as a department, as a group, that we need to be more responsive to the needs of the community. And what's important for us is building relationships with our community members, listening to the needs, of what is expected of us, and that we can explain how we can do that, what we can do to meet those needs, and what resources we can bring to meet those needs. And so I just, my goal is so that everyone knows from the top down, from me to the officers working the street, that they know that is our goal. That is what we're here for. We're here to serve the community. We're here to work with the community members to keep everybody safe, to provide services and resources for all the needs. And I appreciate the opportunity, and I look forward to, with Mr. Cervantes, to answering questions and responding to any other comments.
Thank you so much. We now are going to have Emerald McGowan ask some of the questions that were sent in to both Joe Cervantes and Stan Reno. So you both are free to answer any of the questions, or Emerald will be directing them.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Thanks for having me. I'll be doing the portion of Q&A, so I'm going to just jump right in because we have tons of questions. So my first question is, we had a lot of questions about gun control in Carbondale, and they want to know, is there anything we can do to reduce the amount of guns in Carbondale? And do either of you plan on pursuing the case of Zaquan Campbell again?
I can start off with that one if that's okay, Chief.
Sure.
Just to start off with the Zaquan Campbell case, I had the privilege of meeting the family members and friends of Zaquan Campbell during the campaign. And the only thing that I had mentioned is that it's at the time that it's very troublesome to comment on cases from the outside when you don't know all the details. Well, I've had an opportunity to start looking into the case. It has not been closed at this time as far as my office is concerned, which means that there are still answers to be found, and our case will our office will continue to look at that case and review it. I believe I've contacted the Carbondale Police Department already on that, and and I've said all along that as long as there's someone out there, a victim's family, that pain that they have during incidents like this, it doesn't go away, and they don't stop becoming victims at some point. As long as someone hurts and they have a reason to have me look at a case, I'm going to continue to look at that case. And so I will review that case and continue reviewing it and work with the Carbondale Police Department to see if there's anything that we can do in that matter. About gun violence, it's a serious issue. It's a health crisis, and you don't really understand how very real it is until you get in this seat and start reading some of these police reports. The shootings are only a part of it. It's like the tip of the iceberg. The possession of firearms by our youth and our young adults in Jackson County is staggering. I know because I read these reports. Something has got to be done. And I've already started reaching out and to start trying to find some type of plans and programs where we can make this happen. The shootings I want to mention are something that affects the entire community, not just Carbondale or not just Murfreesboro, not just one neighborhood. It affects the entire community. But I'm looking to do a few things. First, some of these sentences that we have when there are shootings and deaths, we have to start making sure that they're being used to deter other people from the same type of offenses. In other words, Are our young adults and youth going to read the third page of a newspaper about what happened to so-and-so in his case? We want to make sure that we get out and we communicate with the youth exactly what happens and tell the story of some of these individuals who didn't make it out of their neighborhoods without getting involved in the criminal justice system. So that's important that we have that dialogue and that conversation, as tough as it may be, as controversial as it may be. Second, we have to start teaching kids about conflict resolution. Kids and youth, young adults even, they experience a lot of emotions, anger and fear and sadness and all types of emotions. The problem is that they usually don't know how to deal with it or don't have the skills to cope with it. And having them with a gun in their backpack or in their vehicle or in their waistband doesn't help the situation at all. So we have to be willing to not just talk about these sentences that people are getting to go to Illinois Department of Corrections. We have to be willing to do the tough thing and start making sure that kids don't follow in those footsteps. So let's start working on programs where we're talking about conflict resolution and how youth can deal with it. And then I'm starting to push out some ideas, and this is one of the reasons why we have a Citizens Advisory Board standing up so I can work with them on this. We're starting to push out some ideas about a violence intervention group. And I'll have more details on that as well. But it's clear we have to work this situation from all different angles. And I'm anxious to work with Chief Reno on doing that.
I'll just speak briefly to both of those questions. In regards to the Zaquan Campbell case, that was certainly a tragic case, and our condolences continue to go out to the family, and we know that they are grieving. That particular case, had a lot of complicated facts related to it, and our detectives worked many hours investigating it and put together a complete investigation that we sent to Mr. Cervantes' office prior to him coming in. So I'm glad to hear that he's taking the opportunity to take another look at it. We're committed to following up on anything that he needs in regards to additional investigation if he sees a need for that. So we will be working with him and his office moving forward to see how we can best resolve that case if there's anything else that can be done. So again, I stand ready to do anything that he asks in regards to that case. As far as gun violence is concerned in Carbondale, it's really, it is a problem. And as Mr. Cervantes says, it's staggering, and it's very disappointing how many cases that we are seeing involving younger and younger kids with firearms and large firearms at that, with high ballistic capabilities. So the conflict resolution is very important, and I don't want to keep repeating that, but we've got to figure out a way to educate our youth that, the answer to solving problems is not grabbing a gun. And the other part of that is that we need to educate our gun owners on safe gun ownership. So many times we find that firearms are stolen out of houses or vehicles because they were left unsecure, and making them accessible to violent criminals on the streets. So all of those things have to work together, and I don't see it as a specific problem to be solved by the police department or the state's attorney's office. It's really a community problem that we need to work together on, and educating our youth and again, using unfortunate circumstances of other offenders when they are held accountable as a deterrent to say, listen, this is not the decision you want to make. You don't want to end up in that same situation where you're going to prison and your life is substantially changed because of a mistake that is made. So we're prepared and ready to be a part of that, and help however we can. But again, it takes all of us to come together to help solve this problem.
Okay, thank you both for answering the question. My next question is, there are some citizens that are concerned about the police violence that was perpetrated last night by the seller. Why are police using force for ticketable offenses? And any plans to offer situational training to our police department? That question is specifically for Mr. Reno.
Sure. I only know very few facts about the arrest reference from last night at the cellar. I'll share with you what I do know, that our officers responded to a disorderly subject who was intoxicated. They were waiting on medical services for this individual during that time. The subject became belligerent and and battered one of the police officers, which resulted in his arrest. Just so you know, this case and every case, the officers are required to do what we call a use of force form that documents their specific force used in any incident. And this particular case has not come up through the chain of command, but the way that it works is that a supervisor will review that, a commander will review it after them, and then ultimately it comes to my desk for a final review to determine whether that force was reasonable or not. So that case is still working its way through our process and our system, and then will ultimately work its way over to Mr. Cervantes' office for determination of prosecution. So if there's more specific questions about that incident, I would have to ask that they give me a little time to do some more research to figure out exactly the details of that case. That is what I know at this point. Go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, my next question is, what are 2 to 3 new things you both plan to incorporate in your day-to-day that you feel will contribute to making a great impact in this community?
Well, I can start off. First off, my day-to-day is about communication with the community and with the other areas of the government and law enforcement. I said from day one that I was going to be reachable, and I am. I can't keep, I've got a couple cell phones here, and I answer every call that I can take, and even worked very hard on having difficult conversations. I know that when we had some issues with COVID and indoor dining, my phone lit up the next day. I probably had 70 plus phone calls, and anybody who left their phone number, I called them back. And we talked about what my position was, and I heard their concerns. I'm going to keep doing that. That's my job. So one of the things daily is to make sure that no matter how busy I am, whatever I have going on in court, because I am going to be a state's attorney who goes to court when I get settled in, is that I'm going to make time and make sure that I can reach out and answer phone calls and have my door open. And I hope that anybody who's talked to me since I've taken office, can concur that I've been doing that as much as I can. So that's the biggest thing. There's a number of other things in our office, just daily procedures to make things easier and quicker for us, so that we can spend more time doing what we need to do. And that's making important decisions here and having more desk time to reach out and make sure that we have the information that we need with cases and following up on cases. But the list is really endless about how you can change procedures to make them more efficient for the community.
For me, it's a lot of the same. It's about communication and transparency, as I've already mentioned. Coming in every day and seeing what's happened over the last, several hours when I've been gone to ensure that we're informing the community about what's been happening, whether it's through a media release or a social media post or whatever it takes to make sure that what's happening at the police department is open and transparent to our community so that they know what's going on. But also making myself available through different things such as programs as this and different events to make sure that I'm available to answer questions, to respond to concerns and issues. That's definitely a priority of mine. But beyond that is on a regular basis reminding our officers of what our mission is. It's to really be responsive to the needs of the community, to be compassionate to those that are in crisis and that need help, and that to remember that every call and every case that we respond to or investigate is important, and that at that particular point in time, for that person who's reporting something or who's a victim of any type of crime, from the most severe to the least most minimal, maybe a property crime, that is upsetting to them, and it's very important to them, and that we need to take that seriously, and that we do the necessary follow-up to assist them however we can.
I want to jump in one more time on that too, if I can, just to show, how little things can really make a big difference in the community. I've been involved, and I'm very interested in seeing the Irma Hayes Center come back to life in that neighborhood. And I see some questions on the screen about the Irma Hayes Center. Bob was having a difficult time getting people to volunteer over there, and I saw some volunteers coming out, and I wish I could have gotten out there more often. We picked up the phone over to our probation department and asked if people could do community service over there, and we got that site approved as a community service job site. And I thought maybe a couple people would go over there from time to time, but Bob had reported back to me that they had dozens of individuals going out there on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, helping with the community, with the Irma Hayes Center, with their community service. I thought that was great. It just goes to show you about that communication thing and about working together. Bob calls me and tells me that he needs help. I pick up the phone to probation, and everybody just starts working together. Sometimes it just starts with a simple phone call and allowing the doors of your office to be open to ideas and asking the question. So I'm excited to see what that brings, and I know it's useful help for the Irma Hayes Center over there.
Okay, thank you. Speaking of that, Mr. Cervantes, are you willing to have any community organizations to help mentor incarcerated men and women that deal with substance abuse issues and lack of education?
So I'm open to having a number of different programs that would help individuals. Now, we incarcerated men in the Illinois Department of Corrections or here in our jail. I have a little to do with individuals once they're sentenced and they leave for the Illinois Department of Corrections. But I think that the community groups are very important in my administration, and they're going to be, and they have been. So I'm open to those ideas. And again, I hate to keep saying the same thing because we have a number of different programs that I'm working on right now. But it all comes back to having that outreach into the community, and my Citizens Advisory Board that I'm anxious to stand up. They've already been providing me ideas of programs that we can do. And they're a great avenue for once we develop those programs, how do we get them back out to the community so they understand them? I did use them. We have this warrant amnesty program to try to get rid of warrants for nonviolent offenses, traffic offenses. And one of the ways that I got that program out to the community, I did a press release to the media, but I also emailed and picked up the phone and called some of these community groups around. And I told them, hey, can you help me get this program out to the people that you know? And they, sure enough, they turned around and they started pushing that program out. Again, the community is going to be, the success of anything that we do in our office. It's going to be because we've asked people who know better than us for their advice.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Reno, this is for you. A lot of people are concerned about the lack of trust between the community and the police. There are some questions about placing more cameras in the more dangerous neighborhoods. And they also want to know, do you think that you really can build a relationship with the community walking and being in the Irma C. Hayes with a gun? Is there a possibility that the police cannot be armed if they're going to be in the Irma C. Hayes? Because a lot of people would not be comfortable with that.
I'll try to take each part of that question. In regards to the police officers, it's my hope that we can build relationships based on conversations and the actions of the officers, and that we're not judged based on the tools that we have. We have specific tools for the safety of the officers themselves and the safety of the community, and we hope that we never have to use those tools, but we certainly have them for the worst case scenario. So it's our approach is always to talk to people and relate to our community members and be people. I mean, underneath the uniforms and the equipment, each one of our police officers is a person who's a professional and is here to carry out a very great career. So I hope that we can continue to get the opportunity for our community members to know each one of our police officers and know that it's really their desire to help and to be there to assist people. And it's not about using force unless absolutely necessary. The other part of your question in regards to cameras, we are in support of putting cameras wherever they're desired. And that's somewhat of a difficult issue for some different neighborhoods and residents, because some people are in favor of cameras and others are not. So we don't want to force cameras into a neighborhood that where they're not necessarily desired. So we work with different neighborhoods and to figure out the needs that are there and place the cameras where we feel they will be most beneficial for us to act as a deterrent and to assist in any investigations that may happen in that particular area.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to stick with you because we have a question that piggybacks off of Mr. Hayes.
Sure.
A lot of people brought up the fact that police spending is out of control in their opinion, and that a lot of funds are going to the police. They don't feel like the police are succeeding within the community. How do you feel about both of you guys defunding the police and allocating those funds to social workers so that they could go out and, you know, maybe be that person in the Irving C. Hayes Center or respond to domestic violence calls, mental health issues, etc.?
Well, I've mentioned some of this already, but one of the things that I've been working on is finding alternative resources for our budget. I mentioned some of the civilian positions that we're bringing in, and those positions, with the exception of the community service officer, will all be funded by outside entities to supplement our budget so that we don't have to spend our funds. Police budgeting is a difficult topic, and some of the things that we're seeing, the changes that we're seeing right now, a lot of legislated mandates that are coming down for law enforcement all cost money that we will have to figure out how we're going to budget and how we're going to manage moving forward. So policing is an expensive business, but there's high expectations for lots of training, and that officers are performing at their very best. And in order to do that, we have to invest in each one of them. So training is an very important thing for me. It's important for our department. And it's also important that we have the resources here that we need so that we can police the community safely and that we can keep Carbondale safe. And I think it's absolutely a needed investment. It's a valuable, we offer services and things that other police departments in this region don't. And we want to continue to enhance our abilities to be responsive. And again, I want to try to do that with, being fiscally responsible. And on a regular basis, the city manager and I assess our needs and where our budget stands and our staffing. And we've already made reductions and changes just in the last few years. So we're very conscientious of it and vigilant about the fact that we need to watch our budget closely.
Joe, how do you feel about defunding the police? And keep it short, please.
Well, I think that that people that talk about defunding the police, they talk about responsible spending, and I think that some of the phrasing of defunding the police I think it's just phrased wrong. The police allow me to be able to keep the neighborhood safe and get reports in front of me and serve a valuable purpose. It's just a matter of, what's the right spending. And like Chief said, it's a very difficult thing to budget. I'm coming under that as well, trying to budget our state's attorney's office. But I believe that the police need the necessary resources to do their job. And I will remind people that we have several very serious violent offenses that we are prosecuting currently, and but for a thorough investigation, video cameras and detectives and all, we wouldn't be successful in doing what we do.
Okay, Joe, I'm going to stay with you. A lot of people are complaining about a lot of over sentencing. Now, I do realize you just got in office, so I'm not going to put it all on you. But do you have any plans to what are your checks and balances as far as sentencing? A lot of people are complaining about discrepancies between different races. And do you understand the impact of over sentencing? Are you going to be apt to hearing appeal cases for people that may have committed the crime but feel like they were harshly sentenced?
So the first thing is I want to get information out there. First off, we do hear all these appeal cases that come down. I have what's called a post-conviction division here. So when people appeal, those do come back to my office and we write briefs, and so we do handle those cases. I make no mistake that we do have to sentence individuals to the Illinois Department of Corrections from time to time. I do have plans, just for the fact that I'm here and show that I understand the issues when race is involved. The first step in taking care of racial injustice, social injustice, or economic injustice, whatever you may call it, is recognizing it, and I recognize it. Unfortunately, that's not always the case. Unfortunately, the violent offender may be Black or may be Hispanic. My solution is to make sure that I'm involved in these charging decisions. So we have inner policies that I don't want to go too much in detail about, but right now because of time. But whenever someone is getting a possible offer to go to another defense attorney, is getting an offer to go to the Illinois Department of Corrections, that comes across my desk. And I will, and I did it the other day. I sat in an assistant state's attorney's office and we talked about what the right sentence should be. And how do I judge that? I judge that by first the justice, meaning do we have the reasons to do that, the criminal history of the individual and keeping the public safe. And after we go through that process, we usually recommend these sentences and the judges usually make those final decisions. But so far, I've had 30 felonies filed this month, and we have three individuals this month, and those were filed from last year, have gone to the Department of Corrections. One of my things is to try to keep track of who's going to the Department of Corrections, what their sentences are, and just really pay attention to it instead of allowing it to be this assembly line system. For every sentence that you read in the paper, there's probably dozens where we didn't send that person to the Illinois Department of Corrections. And in fact, we had a great conversation yesterday and where there was an offer of 4 years in the Illinois Department of Corrections, we ended up coming to a solution that did not involve incarceration. And so one of my plans is to make sure that all of those Department of Correction sentences, they come across my desk, period. Afterwards, I want the minimus, meaning I want the actual document that says how many years they got and when they started serving it. And I'll keep those personally in this filing drawer in my office so I can make sure I have that information available when community groups want to know who I'm sentencing, what their background is, what their race is, so on and so forth. So I'm going to make sure I have that data. So when people, make accusations or explain that we have to do a better job, I can either agree or disagree based on that data. But it's something that is in my brain housing group right now, and I pay attention to every single day. It's the toughest thing that I have to do, and that is send an individual to the Illinois Department of Corrections. I'm absolutely aware of what kind of disruption that causes in the community, a disruption to a child that doesn't have a father, the disruption of an individual who doesn't have an uncle or a nephew or somebody in the, it's a disruptive thing to send someone into the Department of Corrections. But I want to make sure that we're doing the right thing. And at the same time, we still need to focus on making sure that our young adults and our youth are not following in those same footsteps, so we don't have to make those decisions later on.
Okay, so we're going to stay on the same topic, but the question is for both of you guys. There is some public perception that Jackson County has been lax on prosecuting and arresting sexual assault offenders in Carbondale. Are there any plans for either of you to be more serious, more harsh, towards this crime that's being committed?
If you don't mind, Chief, I can start that one off, and then I'll leave it to you. I apologize, but this is.
Be quick.
I was made aware of this during when I came into office. We read some older articles about the reporting in sexual assaults and how how few of them are actually prosecuted. Those are very difficult cases to prosecute. The way that, once I became aware of that, the way that I've tackled that is that those cases are being handled by me. They are in my office right now, in my top filing drawer and my second filing drawer, unfortunately. And those are cases that I will personally be handling in court. I think those are very important things that we have to do and make sure that our victims can feel free to come forward. We also have to work on some awareness programs with the community and with Southern Illinois University to make sure that we have programs and support groups in place so victims can come forward and create those reports. But first off, I need those reports on my desk. And so it's very important for me to not only personally prosecute these cases, but it's important for us to support these groups so people come forward and I get those reports. I've also taken an active part in a lot of the groups that meet on a monthly basis to talk about these types of cases.
Mr. Reno?
Sure. From the police department standpoint, every sexual assault case that gets reported to us gets documented in a police report and assigned to a detective for follow-up investigation. So they're one of the most important cases that we receive, and a number of them involve juveniles, and we work with other outside agencies to assist with forensic interviews of children. We have specific detectives that are trained on how to investigate, and they go to ongoing training so that they have the best skills and knowledge on how to investigate these types of offenses. As Mr. Cervantes stated, these are very difficult cases because of the emotional hurt and tragedy that it caused that is related with the victims. Sometimes the reluctance to follow through with the prosecution because they don't want to go through that re-victimization again. So we work closely with the Women's Center and other support groups for our victims. Personally, I was a part of the Sexual Assault Response Committee with the university for a number of years. There was lots of outreach that was done throughout the community and on campus to bring awareness to sexual assaults and what we can do to better respond to those and provide the best services and compassion to the victims as possible. So it is very important to us. We stay on top of it and we train for it on a regular basis.
Well, I thought we were in a rush, but we actually were told we have one more time for one more question, excuse me. So I'm going to stick with you, Reno, and I do want to thank you both for answering all my questions and not dancing around. So there is a question about the Carbondale Police Department providing material assistance and police escorts to the Trump caravan earlier or late last year. Many feel that this was an endorsement of the same people who attacked the Capitol on January 6th. Do you have anything to say about that?
Absolutely. We did not provide an escort to the Trump event. That's misinformation. As a matter of fact, based on what we felt as far as the number of people that we were learning were involved in that event, we actually diverted that group around the center of the city because we knew that there were other groups that were protesting against them, and we didn't want to have any violence or any type of issues that were going to put anybody in potential danger on either side. So what we didn't anticipate was that it was going to be as large as it was. So once we started that detour, we had to make a lot of changes as that was happening. But we never endorsed it. We never provided an escort. We were simply there, or had officers working to ensure the safety of the community and the safety for all those involved. So it's been misunderstood, and that's not how it was planned.
Okay, thank you guys for answering the question.
Well, everyone, on behalf of Carbondale United, So Ill Unity Coalition, Carbondale Public Library, and the Women's Center, we want to thank you for joining us this evening. We hope this event was insightful and resourceful as you got the opportunity to speak with your local elected officials. Again, your voice matters. If you have any questions or concerns, use your voice, because you could be the difference in making a change for your community. I'm Matt Wilson.